Okay, so we did this outcome in grade 11 where we figured out where angles were, we figured out the x, y, and the r ratios, and we learned these fractions, which come from SOHCAHTOA. So for instance, if I look at this angle and I say, what's the sine of the angle? You should do the SO, which is the opposite over the r. Opposite y over the r. So look at this. The sine is y over r, and that's where it comes from. What is the cosine ratio in the SOHCAHTOA? You should do the, how do you do cosine? Ka. How do you do ka? Adjacent, which is x, over hypotenuse, which is r. And look at that. X over r. Okay, and then tan is toa. So look at toa. What would you do? Opposite y divided by adjacent x. Okay, I have a little acronym to help you remember this because on your test, the day before your test, I'm going to give you a memory quiz. And on your memory quiz, you're going to have a blank unit circle to fill in and these ratios. So here's the acronym. Let's write it down here. Okay. So you're really cute. X-rated. Thank you. Excellent. So sine. So you're really, that's what I fill it in. So you're really cute. X-rated. Thank you. Excellent. Okay. You think of something better.
X-ray.
Thank you.
X-ray. Thank you. X-ray.
Emoji. X-ray emoji. It's like a text.
Emoji's under the eye.
No, but it's like the X-ray emoji.
Sometimes you just got to make something so stupid that it sticks in your head.
E. All right.
No, it's a
Okay. Let's talk about quadrants. I'm going to draw 4 little diagrams here. Let's talk about quadrants. We should remember quadrant numbers, right? Because you had some questions like that. That's quadrant 1. So if an angle was in quadrant 1, make a little triangle for me. Do you notice that I always connect my triangle to the x-axis? Do you remember that from grade 11? Always the x. This side is x. This side is y. This side is r. Tell me in this quadrant, what do you know about x and y thinking as in positives and negatives? They're both positives. So I'm going to make a note for myself to remember in that quadrant, that's what it would look like. So let's talk about in quadrant 2, x, y, r. What would you do with x and r? Positives and negatives there.
Negative X.
Negative x
Positive R.
and positive y. Guess what? R is always positive because it's a radius of a circle. So that doesn't make sense.
Could you have a negative radius?
No.
That'd be like inverted circle.
Whoa.
What would that look like?
That's Albert Einstein. Stop, I give it to you.
Okay, quadrant 3.
What is an inverted circle?
X side, a y side, and an r side.
Dimension, you can't comprehend that.
True.
So when I'm doing these x, y, r numbers, I'm using Pythagorean theorem, right? And when I do that, I don't concern myself with positives or negatives. I just take the numbers. Last year I preached to you in trig. Don't put the negatives in the math, put the negatives into the locations. Remember that
Yeah.
saying?
Yep.
So Pythagorean theorem, I would just do it with the numbers. Don't even look at positives or negatives. Just do it with the numbers, and then what? Negative, negative in that quadrant, right?
Really? That's not a proper way.
And fill out your last quadrant idea here. Okay, so make sure you think about where it is with the x and the y coordinate location.
1 radian.
Think so?
Yeah, 'cause
Definitely
I'm 1
isn't.
radian long. Not how that works.
Okay, so there's a memo to myself. Use just the values. Don't put positives or negatives into your calculator at all.
What do
Okay?
you mean by, like, I don't get it.
We'll run
But
into
what
it.
if it's a -4? You just use
I
4?
need to just use 4 because it's a distance. Like you don't have a distance of -4. You know what I mean? The hypotenuse, on a triangle, they're all talking about the distance of this side, the distance of this side.
It's not because it's in the third quadrant that you use the negative.
No, it's negative in the drawing in the final answer, but don't
Okay.
do it in your math work. Okay, so that was all last year. Now, this year we're going to add 3 functions. So, they are called cosecant.
What?
Yeah, so here is the abbreviation for that. Cosecant. It is me flipping the sine function.
Flipping, like putting it on the bottom.
So what happens if I flip the letters of the sine? So go back up to here. Now this would be
Okay.
r divided by y.
How do you draw your Y?
Okay, then the next new one is called secant.
Go like this.
So you're going to see those 3 abbreviated letters to show that.
I'd actually check it one day.
And then secant is the flip of cos. And guess what? It's horrible because they're actually opposite in letters. Right? Look, this is the C and this is the S. Now this is the S and this is the C. So I wish they lined up, but they don't. Okay, so that's how I always remember it. It's opposite. So then if I write this as a letter, it would be
R over X.
r over x. And the last one is called cotangent. So COT is the abbreviated. And guess what? This one makes sense. Cotangent is the flip of
Okay.
tangent.
Told you.
Okay, so
You have to draw Y again.
connecting, when you make the connection, the words C and S, flip them around. Okay. So here is a question I gave you in grade 11. We did this exact one in your notes in grade 11. You have an angle that goes through the coordinate 5, -12. So 5, -12, can you draw me where that would be on a grid? 5, -12. Did we all land in quadrant 4? Okay, create a triangle that attaches yourself to the x-axis, not the y-axis. Make sure your triangle doesn't look like that. Okay. I'm going to put this side as a +5. This side I'm going to label with a -12. To get the last side, should we add Pythagorean or subtract? Should we do a squared plus b squared, or should we do a c squared minus an a squared? Are you finding a long side or one of the shorter sides? Longest side, so I'm going to go 5 squared plus 12 squared in my calculator. Did you notice how I didn't write a -12? Does it square root nicely or not?
It is 13 units, so that's
Yes. If it doesn't square root nicely, you actually have to leave it as a square root number. Okay, now, if you really want, you could probably grab your formula sheet so that it's right beside you with these ratios and you can peek off them if you want. Find all three trig values. So I need you to tell me the sine of the angle equals something, the cos of the angle, the tan of the angle. This is from grade 11, so those were all I was expecting you to do in grade 11.
What?
Something to love.
So sine of the angle would be what number divided by what number?
No. 12 divided by 13.
Negative 12 divided by
That's when you
13.
do negative
Now
12?
I need the negatives. It's not a calculator math operation now. It's a location.
Oh, it's literally just.
Yeah. Cos 5/13. And tan, you got your letters, y/x.
Oh,
Do you remember this idea from grade 11 as well?
yeah.
Astica. So what do you know? We're in this quadrant. So what does that tell me?
Cos is positive.
Cos is positive. Check. And what else do you know? The other ones are
Is positive.
negative numbers. And that all matches, right? Okay. If cos of the angle, do you always notice how I write three things? I write the function, the angle variable, and this is the trig value. So make sure you always have three components. The cos of the angle is this. So draw me a little Astica thought process here. Where could I be if cos is a negative? Astica. Think Astica.
2 or 3.
I could be in the S1, 2, or 3. Okay, now it tells me, oh, the angle is not in quadrant 2, so forget that. Where am I? I'm in quadrant 3.
What? It is in quadrant.
Oh, I thought it read, just kidding. Why did I read it's not? It is, so thank you.
That was a really good eraser.
It's just white.
I didn't even make a mistake. Look at that. It is in quadrant 2.
It's white out race.
Never happened.
I didn't call it. You called it an eraser.
Who? Oh,
There we go. We're back on track. It
that was
is
good.
in quadrant 2. Okay. Draw yourself a triangle.
Trying to not a quiet freak out class.
Now, do you have your formula sheet? The cos ratio is what letter on the top? X. I'm going to write that down there. That's an X. And the cos ratio on my formula sheet says what?
R.
R. Okay, so that's the X and that's the R. Can you now place that stuff onto the triangle?
Yeah. I did.
Just did. Oh, angle.
So 5 squared minus 3 squared.
I'm gonna go ahead and call it.
Okay, so I need Pythagorean theorem. Are you getting a big side or a small side?
No side.
Small side. So I'm going to do 5 squared subtract 3 squared. Do you notice how I'm not dealing with negative 3? Just do the values. Square root. If it square roots nicely, let's take that. If it doesn't, we leave it.
Are you getting
Wait.
that?
Did it come out to 4?
Yeah.
What did I do?
You added them. You have to subtract because that
It's a
one's
smaller.
on the
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Add when you're getting a hypotenuse. If it's not hypotenuse, you'll subtract.
I'm trying to get back at a double right and I can always do a plus.
Okay,
What is it, plus?
now that we're done the math, tell me, positive or negative?
What is?
The 4. It's a positive 4. Okay, find the cosecant of the angle. Cosecant of the angle.
It's the S one.
So I said you could have your formula sheet in front of you right now and practicing this. What letter should I write on the top and which one should I write on the bottom?
R.
R over, wait,
X?
you sure?
Oh, see, look.
Oh, I looked at the wrong one. Y.
R over Y. R over Y on your formula sheet?
But isn't it the SCE one? Because the opposite of what it is.
So then 5 over.
So 5 over 4.
So the C goes with the C.
No,
Isn't it the SEC?
this part is done. It's forgotten about. The coast stuff, that's forgotten about. It just helped me get my triangle.
The cosecant abbreviation is S C S E.
Yeah, because it starts with the letter C. The other one is just secant, so then that one starts.
Opposite.
Okay, good. That's it. It's done. This is you not finding an angle. You're trying to just find the trig value, the fraction, the ratio. Okay. Secant. It told me secant. Go to your formula sheet. Secant should be a what letter and a what letter? An R and a
Y.
X.
What?
You're looking at the wrong one again. R and an X. And it's in quadrant 3. Okay, this time, did I read it properly? It is in quadrant 3. Okay, guess what? Negative 20 doesn't make sense as an R. It's going to be 20. X is 7, but what kind of 7 is the X over there?
Positive. Oh, negative.
Negative. Do you see why there was a negative 20? Do you notice in math, I would never write a number like this. I would never. It's kind of a math rule. I would just write that like that. Okay? It just needs to know, you just need to know that one of them is negative, and obviously the R is positive, and I can see that the X is negative. Okay, Pythagorean theorem, add or subtract, what do you want to do? Subtract 20 squared, subtract a 7 squared. Maybe one of these will not work out for us.
Yeah, this one doesn't.
This one doesn't. I wanted to have an example like that, so that's good. It doesn't work out.
Shoot.
So I leave it. So square root
So it has to be like
a perfect. Because in this section, you can never round anything. Ever. So it has to be an exact. Okay, now that we're done the math, tell me positive or negative?
That was all.
Negative.
Negative.
You got a bigger water bottle.
Okay, and then the final says, tell me the sign of the angle. So I'm at my formula sheet, and I'm going to write what letter divided by what letter?
The negative root of 351. But you can't do that.
You can't do negative.
Oh, sorry.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, never.
Yes.
It's not a
It's that. You can't do the root of negative, but you can do a negative of a root.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
You
what I
could just
meant.
do, like, just divide it by negative 20, wouldn't it be the same thing?
It is the same thing.
Instead of having the negative with the root
But
up there. 'cause it's-
It is the same thing, but in math, like there's kind of techniques for writing things. Like you would probably never write me x5, you would write me 5x.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's just like a protocol for, what do you call it, proper? Being math proper?
Like grammar.
It's not wrong.
Grammar?
It's math grammar. It's not wrong. It's just putting your commas in the wrong spot and your. Okay. Oh, I need an example where I don't tell you the quadrant.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't. Okay, next. Are you okay if I skip this one? Yeah, I'm gonna skip that one. You know how to do that one. Skip it.
I
Skip it.
really wanted you to do that one.
Oh, I'm sorry.
had a bigger number.
It was actually too easy. Okay. This one. Okay, on this one, I don't tell you which quadrant it's in.
Shoot.
You have to figure it out. All about Astica.
I knew it.
Okay. So secant, well, that's not even part of this Astica thing. So what should I think about instead of thinking about secant?
Also turns, oh wait. Also-
Cos. It's secant is the flip of cos. So basically, where is cosine negative? And this is in quadrant.
Well, can you just look at that secant or whatever the frick that is, and then it's r over x, and then you know the r is the x is positive.
Yeah, but I don't. Okay, I get you, but you know, but it could have two possibilities
Then you know that sign is.
because I know x is negative and r is positive. But what is y? I don't know. So you know what I mean? You're only down to two possibilities. Okay, now what does this mean? What does that symbol mean? Less than 0? So where is sine negative?
See, but then you also know that.
So now where is sine negative? Bottoms?
Oh, and, yeah.
Yeah.
Third one is the
So now
It's the third one.
it's the third one. Did I pick everything in the third? No. Okay. Oh, do you remember the fast way to do Astica?
No, I don't know the slow way.
You only know the slow ways.
No, I don't even know the slow way.
Okay.
Okay.
Ready? Cos.
Green light. Okay, let's keep going.
Cos is positive, negative. Breaks apart left and right.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, yeah, this is the buzzing light.
Do you remember me telling you
Yeah,
that?
yeah.
Sine. Where's sine positive?
Up and down.
Tops,
Oh, wait.
And
bottom, up and down.
And then 10 is the.
And then tan.
Holy. I
It
just got
gets-
plugged into the Matrix. I remember this stuff.
That's the fast way to think about it. Because cosine, on your formula sheet, what letter does cosine have with it?
Cosine
X.
x.
So guess why it's left and right? X.
Oh.
You're kidding.
Oh my god.
You are kidding.
Sine on your formula sheet
Oh.
has what letter with it? A Y. So guess why I'm split top and bottom?
Okay.
Good joke.
This is crazy.
All connects. Okay. Anyway, we're off on like
Okay, nobody cares.
Wrong guy.
a long way on. Okay. Anyway, we finally figured out we're in quadrant 3.
Oh, I want to iron. Show up, Chris.
We're in quadrant 3. We know secant. So there's a 41 and there's a 9. Where do you want to put them? One of them is negative. It might not be the 41 because it actually isn't because that's the R.
Oh, it's further away.
So there's a 41 R. Which letter is the 9 then on your formula sheet?
The x.
The X.
So it actually should be a negative 9.
So it is
Yeah.
a negative 9.
Negative Nelly corner over here.
That's not a corner.
Yeah, that quadrant's a negative Nelly quadrant.
So I need that.
That is quadrant 3.
By the line, the 9, I guess that was quadrant.
Does it work out? Yes.
So it's on the line.
That doesn't sound like a quadrant to me.
41 squared minus 9.
It comes out its square roots.
40.
So that's your little thing here. 40.
Find cotangent.
And 40. I'm done the math. So now I say positive or negative.
Negative.
Negative. Cotangent of this angle is the letter what?
X over y.
Y.
X over y. So negative 9 over negative 40. But I would expect you to
9 over 40.
cancel. Positive.
Close.
Two negatives. Does it make sense? Because it's asta, it's in the T quadrant. So cotangent should be positive. If tan is positive, cotangent is positive, right?
If 10. This is cotangent.
Okay, let's do
Cosecant. I don't
Another
know
one?
how to read
This is
that.
like, I forgot to read egg.
okay, a point on the unit circle in quadrant 3. I'm kind of sick of quadrant 3. Let's go to the next question. Let's go to the next question. I feel like everything's quadrant 3. A point on the unit circle has this y value and it's in quadrant 4. Something different.
That's crazy.
One more quadrant.
It's in quadrant 4 this time. We made it 2 different quadrants.
How's the Y coordinate with my brain?
Okay, it has a y coordinate of -5/13.
Oh, I don't like that.
What? Okay.
And that's it. That's all the numbers that I have. Or is it?
Bum, bum,
Bum, bum, bum. Why does it tell me it's on the unit circle?
Goofy,
What? What did you say?
The radius is just.
The radius on the unit circle is 1.
That's crazy. You crazy girl.
Why is it called the unit circle?
Because it's a singular unit.
It's a unit in radian.
So there's no such thing as the units circle?
It's the unit circle.
Like what if it was
So,
like the units?
that's
and
what
it
I
was
know.
like 2?
Wait a
That's
second.
what I know.
Is that a thing?
Okay. Now, I could do this 2 potential ways. We could do all this math with fractions, or we could avoid fractions.
I like
Which method should we
God bless
pick?
the Egyptians, bro.
Avoid fractions. Okay, do you know how to take a picture on your Word documents and drag them and blow them up?
No.
You know what I mean? Like enlarge
Snapshot?
something. Enlarge something.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, we're going to enlarge it.
But, okay.
I'm going to blow it up. How many times bigger? Any predictions? What I'm going to think? No.
Okay, that was good.
The number that I'm picking connects to this somehow.
The unit circle.
I'm going to enlarge it
5 times.
13 times bigger.
Got it.
Somebody got it, I don't
Someone
know.
over there said it before.
Amber? I'm going to enlarge it 13 times bigger.
Okay, you were close.
I still believe a few times now.
You were 3 off.
I mean, I'm not going to fault you. You threw out an answer. I appreciate it. Okay.
Do more of that, Yuri. We need the energy up in here.
There's no such thing as wrong answers.
Well,
Just answers that have room for improvement.
haven't been proved right yet.
Yeah, why couldn't we just said?
Okay,
Because they haven't been proved to work yet.
this one
Jeez, the Egyptians.
is now 13 because I blew it up 13 times bigger. What happens to that fraction?
We just blew it up.
We blew it up. So then what?
So 5 times 13?
Well, what happens if I times it by 13?
5.
Oh my gosh.
What happens?
Oh, yeah, cancel.
Cancels.
Okay, why
Ah.
did I feel like we're making this up as we go.
I'm not making it up. Okay.
We put 13 in cancels. Trust the Egyptians, they thought of it.
You guys picked the non-fraction way. This is the non-word out of fractions. Look at, okay? Pythagorean theorem. Are you okay to tell you that it's 12? Is that okay?
Yeah, I trust.
Yeah.
Trust.
Or maybe you're just making it up. You wouldn't know.
Tell me positive or negative side.
Positive.
Okay? Secant of the angle is what letter? What letter?
Is S E R over X.
R
13
over X.
over
So
12.
13 over 12. Boom, done.
Boom.
Boom, done.
13 over 12. Okay.
Perfectly Aztec.
There could be a different variety of an answer. I might say, what is the x coordinate? And if I said, what is the x coordinate, I have to get myself back to the original. And how do I go back from enlarging?
Divide by 13.
Yep.
So if I asked you, what is just the x coordinate, I'm going to shrink my triangle back.
Just put it over 13.
Yeah, I divide it back, yeah.
Okay, so we're zooming up on it. Okay.
Yeah, we zoomed out. Is that zooming in or out? Zooming in.
And then
Now
we
we're-
zoomed out. Okay.
Okay,
It makes more sense if you can put it in Word.
the last
Microsoft.
example is, I'm talking way too long. Simplify this expression. Okay,
This is so funny.
Because no one else is just.
I need you to fill in all this for me. So
How do,
cosecant is going to be what and what? It's what
C
fraction?
S C, R over X.
so that's
R
Over
over
I mean.
y.
15 over 12.
R over y from the formula sheet.
What?
Okay, done.
You lied.
Now cotangent is
X equals Y squared.
Cocked.
what? What over what?
Over what formula
Or
is
Y
that,
over
buddy?
Y. X over Y.
Y over Y.
Formula sheet x over y. Who can tell me how to do a fraction divided by a fraction? What's a good method?
Flip the other one
Flip.
and then times.
And times. Multiplying fractions, flip
Yeah,
times.
I
How
learned
do you
that
know?
from Madame Soda in grade 8.
So here's me, instead of dividing by that,
Yep.
I flip it and multiply.
Are we supposed to just like
The second one. Yep. What can simplify? Take out the y's, which leaves me with r over x,
We just dig on.
which matches to what on my formula sheet?
SEC
Oh.
angle.
SEC cos.
How is that cos? No, it's sine.
Wait.
Because it's the
S-
opposite.
oh, you're right.
No, it is cos.
No. Oh,
I don't know.
Why is
I don't know
everybody-
these things.
SEC. This is crazy.
Okay, special note, do you notice how here I use the variable theta? If I was to do this problem like that, my final answer would be secant of x. You know what I mean? I just make sure I'm just using whatever variable. If I say the secant of z, whatever, you make sure you put in what I put in.
Yes.
Wink, wink.
Oh.
I feel like
Did you hear that?
I feel like I get that error on the test a lot.
This